Back YouTube. A little bit of a relocation. Wife came home, so we'll give her the downstairs and we'll go the upstairs. I think it's a little better lighting anyways. But next we're going to put the reel seat on. Now, there's a few different things you got to pay attention to here. Is if you're doing a spinning rod, you're going to want that reel seat to sit with your spine marked up, so that the marking of your spine and the reel seat are going to be in the same direction. So in this case, I've got the spine going up. I'm going to put the reel seat in going up. The other thing is, which direction do you want the reel seat to tighten down on? Do you want it to be? Do you want the threads to be behind, to where your palm is going to set more on the threads? Or do you want those threads to be up so that you have a little bit of palm on the cork here? I think what I have decided was to go with the reel seat flush against the cork and the threads going towards the tip. So what we are going to do is we're going to start with our 1/2 inch masking tape, and we're going to make what's called an arbor. And all an arbor is it's basically a bushing. It's going to take the shaft diameter and increase it to the same diameter as this, so that we have something to glue to. So we're just going to start about 1/8 of an inch away from that cork, and we're just going to start wrapping tape, and we're going to try to stay on top of the same line and make it as straight as possible. And we got quite a bit to wrap here. I'm going to slide over just a little bit because the tip. We're going to cut it right there, and we're going to check it. So just like the cork, we're going to slide it over the tip. We're actually going to, I'll leave it right there, that way. And yeah, we're going to need some more, so try to pick up where you left off. That way you don't have too many bumps. And let's put a few more layers on. And we're going to make 3 of these. One in the back of the reel seat, one in the front of the reel seat, and one in the center of the reel seat. Bump in there, we'll smooth that out. So we're too much now, which is a good thing. I wanted to show you what happens. We're just going to take a couple layers off, about 4 to 6 inches, cut it. You don't even have to waste this if you don't want to. You can set it aside and use it for a different arbor. And I think I like that. It is nice and tight. I think we're going to take just a little bit off because it looks like my tape is starting to slide if I apply pressure. So we're going to take another 3 or 4 inches off. We got a bug buzzing around here. Pretty good. It's not super tight. Remember, we want to align that with the spine as well as we can. We're not gluing it in place right this second, but when we do apply the glue, we want to set that so that the spine is setting with the way the reel is going to sit. I think I'm going to take half of what we took off, and I'm going to put it back on just to make it tight, just enough. And this glue hasn't set yet, so, or epoxy, I should say. No, even that is pretty tight, as you can tell. So we're gonna take a little bit off. Might have had it perfect the first time. I like that. Slides on, nice and tight. So now we can go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's find our China marker. Where did I set it? We may have, oh, here it is. And I'm just gonna mark where the top of this reel seat's coming in, just so I know where I want to put this at. And we're going to build this one, hopefully the same diameter as that one. On the stand so you guys have a better visual. We're going to do a little bit more on there. Not near as exciting as fishing, but like I said in the unboxing, it's Michigan, it's cold, late March, water's just unthawed, not unthawed, just thawed. So you can fish, it just wouldn't be very pleasant. This one's too big now, so back off a little bit. A couple inches off. Kind of like it. It's tight. Take another 2 inches off just so we have. There's that. And that's pretty good, guys. That is really good. So now we're just going to do one more right in the center. And then we'll glue it in place. I think we made it a little too big now, but it's okay. I don't know, guys, I like it. That was nice. I like it. We're going to keep that. I think we're going to stick with that. And then remember, keep that spine straight up. And I'm actually going to mark this somehow. Yeah, I shouldn't need to. I'll just make sure I keep it up. We'll be able to spin it. And I left my epoxy plate to mix downstairs, so let me run and get that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and this is going to be the same process as far as mixing epoxy goes, 50-50, just like the grip. Except this time we're going to need a little bit more, and I probably should have grabbed some paper towels while I was down there too to get this access off of the knife, but we'll do our best just to scrape it off the side. Just don't want to get any into these cans, these jars. And we're going to use a little bit more than we did last time, because they tell you to be very conservative with what you use. Still not a lot, but we got a little bit left over from last time as well. We're going to mix that all together. So once we get this mixed together, we're going to put it on these arbors that we just made. We're going to slide our reel seats in place. going to make sure that it's lined up with the spine correctly, whether we have a spinning application or a casting application. Still got some different colors here. A little bit of white, a little bit of brown, so we're going to keep mixing. With this kit, they give you enough epoxy to do a few rods, I would guess. And same with the wrap. It looks like you could do a couple rods if you'd like. I'm sure I will, because to be honest with you, outside of reaming that cork, I've been having fun with this. I'm excited. I want to get it out on the water. But there's that. Slide this down just a little bit. Put our epoxy plate under it in case we lose something here. So once we get this slid into place, the next thing we're going to do is ream this one out just like we did this one, as far as the cork handle, and that's going to sit right in front of that reel seat. And we're going to glue it in place, and then we're going to call it a day until tomorrow, and then we will get into measuring out the line guides and start setting those in place. And I think at that point we'll be pretty close to being finished. So let's get this. And they say to use a lot in this area, which I'm not sure why, since a lot of it isn't even going to be making connection with the real seat, but I am not going to I'm not going to do anything outside of what the instructions say, especially on my first rod. So I'll make sure that's nice, it's covered really well. Probably going to have a lot of access here, so I should have got those paper towels, but alright, so it's a spinny rod, so we want that mark up for our spine, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to slide this sucker on, and we're going to do the same thing with twisting like I did the grip. Oh, they also recommend taping these threads so that you don't get epoxy on them, but I think we'll be alright, just because I'm sliding this way instead of towards the threads. So right before I get to the end here, I'm going to take and I'm going to get this access off somehow. Not with paper towels apparently, because I didn't bring any. Go ahead and use my finger. This stuff is sticky, so make sure we're sitting in the right spot, and then finish sliding this down. I'm going to turn around for a second to make sure it's lined up the way that I want it. That was pretty darn close. I do have a little bit of epoxy right there. We're going to go get some paper towels, put a little rubbing alcohol on it, and clean that up. But that's it for right now. I'm going to ream this out and then turn the camera back on, show you the gluing process there. And then that'll be it for today, and then tomorrow we'll pick up and we'll start doing the wrap. Alright, we'll see you in a minute. Alright, I'm back. What we're going to do now is we're going to glue this last quarter piece on the tip. You know what they recommend taping the threads so that you don't get any epoxy on it. And I am going to do that because I think I'm going to put a little bit of epoxy down inside. There's about a 1/16 of an inch gap. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just something to protect it so that epoxy doesn't get into those threads. Alright, and then what I've got left I think is going to be just enough to get this bad boy rocking. Probably more than enough, but we're going to push some of that down into there. Alright, remember to spin. Yeah, there's some gaps in this one. I didn't bring this one as well. I went too fast. Extra, that's okay though. Just like I said, I want to push some down into that arbor a little bit more to fill in that little gap. Push it nice and tight. And wipe our axis clean. Rubbing alcohol. And that's it. I'll let this epoxy sit overnight. And we'll get back to it tomorrow and do the eyelets. Throw away the trash so your mom or your wife doesn't yell at you. I think we actually, I'm going to leave this, well, no, I'm going to take this tape off just so it doesn't get glued to the threads. It's sticking a little bit. There's a little bit of epoxy on there. Shouldn't really affect anything. I'm going to clean it up just in case. Make sure everything's still lined up the way we want it to be. Looks pretty good. Still a little bit of epoxy up there, but I don't, in that top thread, I don't think I'm going to have too big of a reel on here to really affect that. I kind of wish there was less threads here. I almost thought about cutting it down. I'm not a big fan, but I didn't want to cut too much and then not be able to get this backed off enough to get the reel under the reel seat. So I'm probably going to put one of these, I believe these are called windings or windings. Don't think they get glued in place. I think they're actually used for split grips, but I'm not a fan of how it looks. We'll slide this in place and we'll see how it looks. And Should just give it a nice clean finish look. And it's tight enough to where you don't need to glue anything. Just gives it a nice clean finish right there. And that's it for today. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow to do the guide kits, put the guides on this bad boy, and then hopefully we'll be hitting the water with you guys soon. But until then, I'm SwimJigJOe. Tight lines.